They exported that system all over the country and other places. True story. Besides the Katikkiro Prime Minister and the officials, who today we call ministers, may the ministers please rise, the Kabaka's ministers. Besides these, there were county chiefs, because I told you Buganda is made up of 18 counties. Below the ministers were the county chiefs and other layers of administration all the way to the village. May the county chiefs please rise. Those are the ones, the representative of the rest. And may members of the Buganda Luchiko, the Buganda Parliament, who are here representing the others, rise. One of Kabaka Chintu, I told you Kabaka Chintu is the first king, you know, the originator of the current dynasty. One of his greatest innovations was to make the king the only person in Buganda who follows a matrilineal clan system. A prince takes after his mother's clan, immediately is installed as Kabaka, as king. And since intra-clan marriages are prohibited, it means that the Kabaka marries from any other clan other than the clan of his mother and the clan of the descendants of the royal family. This means that every clan in Buganda, all of us, have an attachment to the Kabaka because different clans produce different kings. This eliminates the idea of a special clan or a privileged clan in Buganda. The fact that the Kabaka can take after his mother's clan means the Kabakaship, the kingship as such, is relatable to any clan and any Muganda. This is so because any given clan can get the chance of producing an heir to the throne. That's why it's very difficult to abolish the kingdom of Buganda, because it doesn't belong to the king, all the members of the royal family, or the clan heads. It belongs to all of us. You have to eliminate all of us to ban the kingdom. Another innovation at Nono, at the Grand Council, was to make the administrators of the kingdom non-hereditary. The Katikkiro, prime or premier, and other officials, the ministers and county chiefs, are appointed or terminated by the Kabaka, which in a way separates powers, but also gives anyone a chance to enjoy the cultural mores of the institution, since elevation to high office is not hereditary except for the Kabaka and the clan heads. Elevation to office for the rest of us is largely on merit. However, the Katikkiro, or the premier, is next to the Kabaka in the administrative hierarchy of the kingdom. Hereditary leadership of the king and the clan heads ensures continuity of the heritage of Buganda. Yet the fact that the administrators are appointed from time to time, it maintains vibrancy in the institution. Now, you may have heard that the kingdom of Buganda was abolished. Actually, my colleague, who is actually my first deputy, mentioned that the kingdom was banned in 1966 when we had a crisis with the central government. I want to briefly tell you how it happened. Colonialism created Uganda as you see it today, although the kingdom of Buganda had a major role in its creation as a country. Even you can see from the name of the country, you just eliminate B and you have the name of the country, Uganda. Basically because the Arabs and the Swahilis from the coast of the Indian Ocean who came into the hinterland couldn't pronounce B-U, boo. They could only say woo. I think it's a linguistic issue there. And the colonizers wrote U instead of B-U. So that's how the country got its name. Throughout the colonial period, Buganda had a semi-autonomous relationship with the colonial government. And I think this was determined by the British system of indirect rule. This happened, I think, in Nigeria and in Ghana. But this gave preference to established indigenous structures to administer colonies on Britain's behalf. In the case of the Ugandan Protectorate, Buganda's semi-autonomous relationship with the British was seen as some kind of preferential treatment for Buganda, and this was exploited by detractors later. That relationship between Buganda and the kingdom, between the British and the kingdom of Buganda, is not surprising. In the first place, the kingdom had existed as an independent kingdom for nearly 600 years before the arrival of the British. In addition, Buganda was the largest kingdom in Uganda, the wealthiest, the most administratively advanced and strategically placed of all Uganda's regions. So the relationship served the British, and it was inevitable. Now, we got independence in 1962, and the kingdom sought to maintain the semi-autonomous relationship through a federal system of government. So a party was named called Bakyadde. You could say, I stand with the king. Some kind of direct translation. I stand with the king. Bakyadde. It was formed in June 1961 with a view to protecting the heritage of Buganda. That party, KY, together with other parties, namely the Democratic Party and the Uganda People's Congress, participated in the general election leading to the independence of the country. UPC and KY formed an alliance that led to Apollo Milton Obote, I'm sure you know about him, becoming the executive prime minister of Uganda. And then the Kabaka of Buganda, the king of Buganda, became the first president and head of state. But then, you know, when we got independence, the governor, then, he was called Sir Walter Coutts, became the governor general. And the queen remained head of state until 1963. So it was decided in the National Assembly to elect a president and head of state. That's how the Kabaka of Buganda was elected. Because remember, the party formed by his kingdom went into an alliance with Apollo Milton Obote's party. So Mutesa became the first head of state and president. However, the alliance between Buganda's party, KY, and UPC was one of convenience. It was a marriage of convenience. Because Obote was a Republican and was only interested in the alliance for purposes of becoming the first executive leader of Uganda. And I think their working together was superficial, and they harbored ill feelings against each other. So, in August 1964, the Prime Minister Milton Obote announced that the alliance was over. The termination of the alliance worsened the political situation in the country and had a negative impact on its political stability. The Buganda Luchiko, the Buganda Parliament, took over the vacuum left in the weekend National Assembly. Remember, Buganda's party and the Prime Minister's party were the majority in Parliament. Now, with the alliance declared over, there was a vacuum in the National Assembly. And the Buganda Luchiko, the Buganda Parliament, tried to fill the vacuum. And it opposed Obote's leadership. The Buganda Luchiko, the Buganda Kingdom, is fairly strong in the political dispensation of the country. So this renewed opposition by Buganda angered Prime Minister Obote, and he made Buganda his political target. I've talked about the kingdom of Bunyoro to the west of Buganda. During the colonial exploits, 2 counties were taken from Bunyoro and were made part of Buganda. It was always contentious. And the people of Bunyoro Kingdom wanted them back. And as we approached independence, they said they shall hold a referendum to determine where the people want to go. But Buganda hoped that that referendum would be delayed because we were in an alliance with the Prime Minister. But he went ahead. And the referendum was held. And the people elected to go back to Bunyoro. Now that was treason as far as Buganda was concerned. So, Obote himself had issues with his own political party. They were planning to hold a delegates conference in 1967. And they wanted to throw him out. And Buganda was allying with his enemies, within his own party. So the Prime Minister decided to use the army. And he ordered Idi Amin, who I'm sure you all know, to attack the Kabaka's palace. Now, there were problems in the Congo. The Katanga conflict, some of you, since you are politicians, could be historians. And there were separatists, what do you call them? People want to separate, what are they called? They wanted to turn Katanga into an independent country. And Prime Minister Obote sent forces to the Congo to crush the rebellion. He did that without the authorization of Parliament or without informing the president, who was the Kabaka of Buganda. And he used Idi Amin. When Idi Amin went to the Congo, he looted gold. And he shared the proceeds of the loot with Milton Obote. Now, Milton Obote was facing challenges within his own party, with his ally, the Kingdom of Buganda. So he relied on the army to survive. So Idi Amin attacked the Kabaka's palace on the 24th of May, 1966. And a year later, the kingdom was abolished in Parliament. So that is the brief of how the kingdom was abolished. But Amin himself overthrew Obote 5 years later in 1971. And in turn, Amin was overthrown by Ugandan exiles who were based in Tanzania with the Tanzanian armed forces in 1979. In 1980, an election was held, which was rigged by the then head of government in Obote's favor. In 1981, the current president of Uganda went into the bush to fight Milton Obote. That part of the history I'm sure you know. And the people of Uganda allied with Museveni on the understanding that the kingdom would be restored. So when President Museveni overthrew the military generals, negotiations started. The Kabaka returned from exile. Kabaka Mutebi was in England with many members of his family, and negotiations took 7 years. And in 1993, coronation took place. Now we are back to being called a kingdom. And Buganda is now a kingdom. And where you are is the seat of the kingdom. And Obote had turned this into the military headquarters. And the palace was turned into, I think, the largest barracks in the country. Today, the Kabaka has a government. I've introduced members of his government to you. But within the confines of the law, because we are restricted to cultural matters, matters of education, matters of health, land, agriculture, investments, and public interest issues like gender, environment, sports, and many others. The Kabaka has re-established the traditional administrative structures all the way from the village to the top leadership here in Bulange. I understand other delegates are arriving now. Tusanise okubalaba. Let's resume our seats. But standing up a little is also healthy, they say. So, you are most welcome, the second batch of the members of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference that are in Uganda. When we receive a guest we like, we sound the drums and we dance for them. That's a sign that you're most welcome to the administrative seat of the Kingdom of Buganda. I was summarizing for your colleagues the history of the Kingdom of Buganda, when it was established, how it was abolished, how it was restored. And I was telling them about the current status of the Kingdom of Buganda. I was telling your colleagues that the Kabaka has a government within the confines of the law. We are restructuring matters of education, matters of health, matters to do with land, matters to do with agriculture, investments, and public interest issues like gender, the environment, sports, and many others. The Kabaka's government, in its current form, depends on the goodwill of the Baganda and their friends, and they make enormous financial contributions to the kingdom operations. Significant investments have also been made in a number of areas, and one of my colleagues is going to tell you briefly about the kind of investments that we participate in. And we build partnerships with organizations and companies, all of which make considerable contribution to the sustenance of the kingdom. But the most profound factor is the goodwill of the people of Buganda and the love they have for the Kabaka and his institution. The Kabaka's government continues to engage with government over issues related to the federal system of government and also the return of a number of properties that were confiscated by the Obote regime. Demands are also made for compensation for all properties, money, shares in companies, etc., that were confiscated by the government when the monarchy was abolished about 52, 53 years ago. At the beginning, I told you that Uganda, the country, is made up of a number of communities and nationalities. Some of them are monarchical. Some have kings, some have chiefs. And the Kingdom of Buganda relates very well with them. Standing with the Kabaka is in the traditional garb, the leopard skin and traditional crown in the middle. He's surrounded by clan heads, some of whom I introduced to you. But next to him, on the Kabaka's right, in a black jacket, is the leader, the cultural leader of the people of Busoga. That's where the Speaker of the Ugandan Parliament comes from. They've got a cultural head. His servant William Wilberforce Gabulana Diope. He had come to attend Kabaka's coronation anniversary 2 years ago. We also relate very well with other cultural institutions. That one is the Sultan of Sokoto from Nigeria. He was here this year. He came on a study tour. He wanted to learn how the kingdom operates and the kind of programs that we carry out and how they benefit, especially the girl child. His Eminence Abubakar Muhammad Saad III. He was here recently. He was being received here by His Majesty the King, Ronald Muwenda Mutebi II. Last year marked 25 years since the Kabaka was enthroned, and we were honored to receive a special guest, His Majesty the Asante Hene Otumufuo Osei Tutu from Ghana. There he is. He was here. And there, I think, the kings are being entertained by cultural dancers from the kingdom of the Asante in Ghana. But they were here in Uganda, in the Kabaka's palace. Here, the other cultural entities are Bunyoro Kitara, it's a kingdom, Toro Kingdom, and others. And we share programs with them, especially programs related to the development of the youth. We collaborate with them on programs to do with sports and community mobilization and on health. So as I wind up, the formation of Uganda was based on the existence of the different nationalities whose history goes back centuries of years. We promote unity of all citizens of the country, but we don't think that that diminishes our people's attachment to their heritage. So dialogue is viewed as the best option to resolve the unanswered questions, because they do exist. But we hope that with dialogue, we shall promote and sustain genuine national reconciliation and unity. So I thank you very much for finding time to visit us. And I'm going to request some people to give you a little booklet which summarizes the history of the kingdom and the current status, so that when you return to your different countries, you will have gone back a little richer, at least historically. And I hope that when people ask you about Uganda, your point of reference shouldn't be Idi Amin all the time. You can tell them that we met the people that run the kingdom of Buganda. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.